Welcome back to Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel once again. I'm so happy to be with you today, and today we'll be drafting this flare sleeve that is connected to the waist, as you can see on the screen right. All right, so now we'll be drafting this particular flared sleeve entering into the waistline. So as you can see now, the first thing I'm going to do, if you have been following this channel, I'm going to mark out my basic lines, which I've already done. These are my basic lines, and this is my shoulder, and this is the chest, the bust points, the under bust points, and the waist line. All right, so having had all of this, the first thing I'm going to do is to divide my shoulder seam. I'm dividing shoulder seam by 2. You can see how I'm doing that. So once that is done, I will connect the shoulder seam to the bust point. That is the first thing I'll be doing. The next thing I'm going to do is to determine the bust radius. From the bust point, I take the difference between the bust and the under bust. I take it all around. Whatever difference I have, I'm using dotted lines to create the bust radius. The bust radius is the point at which the bust is going to sit. So wherever you have all of these dotted lines, that is the position of the bust. So this will help you to determine whether you want to expose your bust or not, as you are creating this particular style or other styles as well. So next, I'm going to create my neckline, and if you look at that neckline, you can see it moved from the mid armhole and ran like a plunge neckline into the waistline, as you can see, or to the under bust. So I'll be taking the measurement of what I have on the armhole line. Here I have 10 inches, so at 5 inches is the midpoint. I'll just come down by half an inch to create that. That is 5.5. So you have to measure your armhole. Whatever thing you have, that is what you are going to use to create this neckline. So now I'll be creating this neckline. The pattern ruler I have here will not give me what I want, so I'm freehanding it, as you can see. So you can see me freehanding it, and I'm taking it all the way to the under bust. Okay, so I want to stop it at the under bust because that is where the flare is going to run from the sleeve and enter into that part. Okay, all right, so now it's time for us to tighten the bust. So to tighten the upper bust from this neckline I just created, now I'm going to come in from here by 0.75, and I'll come in from here by 0.75. So what I'm doing here is to tighten the upper bust. So I take it like this and I take it back to this point, as you can see. So all this shaded area, I'm going to cut them off. That is the bust area which I've tightened. Coming to the under bust line, I'm going to tighten my under bust, taking the tape around your under bust very, very firmly. Whatever figure you have, divide it by 4 and mark. So you can see I marked from the center front my under bust divide by 4, and I have some inches here remaining. So what I have here is 1.25. I'm going to put 0.25 here and the remaining 1 inch here. So whatever thing you have, even if it's 2 inches, from this dart leg impute 0.25 and then put the remaining at this point. So So to drop these basic bodies, you know you have your dart intake here. I'm making use of a dart intake of 0.75, 0.75. That is 1.5 as a whole. I replaced it right here on my waistline. So make sure you replace before you connect to your chest line. Okay, I'll be dropping the link on how to drop the basic bodies in case you are confused on how to drop these basic bodies. But once you have your basic bodies, follow this video instruction and you'll be able to get exactly what we are doing on the bust, under bust contouring. So what I have from here to here, I've shared 0.25, which is a quarter, and 1 inch on this side. So it's going to help me to tighten my under bust. So I place my pattern ruler from that point to the bust point. I flip to the other part from the bust point to the 0.25, as you can see. Next, I'm going to connect to this point, and next I'm going to connect to that point. So all of these now I'm going to cut off. I'm not making use of them. So herein I have F1, F2, and the yoke line. So remember that the neckline we have there is a mandarine collar. So here I used my bust divide by 12. Okay, bust divide by 12 right here gave me 3.25. So I come down at 3.25, as you can see, which is my natural neckline. But when making a mandarine collar, once you get your natural neckline, add 0.5 to it so it does not choke you. Okay, if you don't want any choke on your mandarine collar, just add 0.5 all around. The 0.5 will serve as an ease to your collar. So I'm creating, or I would say I'm recreating another neckline. Can you see? So this neckline is actually what I'm going to use to cut my mandarine collar for this particular design. So we are done right now, and it's high time to cut the front pattern. The front pattern is ready. So the flounce is going to run into this line. Okay, so I'll quickly cut it out right now, but I would want to show you how the back looks like. So for the back, the only thing I'm going to do is to increase the 0.5 for the mandarine collar. I'll still do the same. I'm increasing the back as well. So once the back is being increased right now, everything matches up with what we have at the front, as you can see. Okay, so that is what you expected to have. So the front has no much issues. All I can do for the front is to close up the for the back is to close up the darts. Okay, so I'll just cut the back because the back is just one piece. It's just one piece. So we are done for this particular back piece. So this is where I'll be adding my zipper on the fabric. Okay, so I call this my center back, and that is where my zip is going to be sewn. So I'm going to close this dart. I'm closing this dart right away. I'll close it up like I'm just applying my adhesive to close up the dart at the back. So the way it is, that is how I'll place it on fabric. As you can see, I'll just place it like this and add my necessary seam allowance, add my zipper, and that is that for the back. So the main business is in the front. So if you look at this, is a plunge neckline, as well as it has a mandarine collar attached to it as well, with the flare attached to it as well. So I'm just cutting off what I have right here. Okay, so I will cut the neckline for the mandarin collar. I will cut my center front line. Now I will cut into the plunge neckline. Can you see? This is the plunge neckline we have on the thumbnail. So I'm cutting off this. So if you want to make exactly that outfit you are seeing on the screen right there on the thumbnail, this is what you are going to draft. So if you follow these video instructions, you are going to get that appropriately. So this is what the pattern looks like. So I'm going to close my bust dart right away. I'll be closing the bust dart. Sorry, I'm not supposed to cut off everything completely. So I've applied my adhesive at that point and I've closed up my bust dart. So now I have F1 and here I have F2, and then this is my yoke, as you can see. Okay, so we are done with this pattern, and this is what you have for the back as well. Okay, I would say this is the back pattern. So I have a video on how to make a mandarin collar. So if you wish to know how to appropriately make your mandarin collar, I'll be dropping the link on the description box below as well. So now I'm done with the pattern. I'm going to show you how to cut that particular flange, okay, and where you are supposed to take the measurement before you cut your flange. But before we do that, I'll be cutting this on fabric and join them together, because we need to join all of this together for us to measure our flange or the flay effectively. All right, so now I've cut out my front pattern. So this tutorial is going to focus on the front bodies. I'll be showing you how you can stitch this front body. So before we attach that flay sleeve, you need to cut your pattern the way I've done now. If you look at the yoke, I cut my yoke, I added 0.5 inch all around, but this part is on fold. The yoke here is on fold. I have my fold sign at that point. Okay, so for here, F2 and F1, I cut 4 pieces of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and here I have the same 4 pieces. So it will be nice you make your notches for the bust point. You can see me making my notch showing the bust point and the under bust point, because when I'm sewing it now, I'm going to match them together and sew from below and join them together. So make sure you hair stay. Okay, for this tutorial I'm not going to hair stay for tutorial purpose, but if I'm making this dress for myself, I'm going to hair stay before I cut. So now I'm merging this together to sew, but before I sew, I will also show you how to cut your wadding or feasible fleece. Okay, if you want to part this dress, this is what you are going to use to cut your padded pattern. So if you look at this pattern, you can see that we have the points of the bust radius. Remember, we took our bust radius, difference between bust point, and we rotated it when we started with this tutorial. You can see the dotted lines which we rotated. So from the under bust, I'm going to follow the dotted lines to wherever the dotted lines stops, and that is my padding. So this is the up and this is the down. So for this particular part, I'm going to cut everything I have here as my padding. So I'm cutting off because I'm not using this pattern again. I've already cut out my seam allowances. I've cut out my fabric, sorry. So I'm just going to cut off. But if you know you are using this pattern, please ensure you trace it out. So this is what I'm going to cut with my wadding. So this is my wadding, and I'm going to cut my wadding right away. I'm going to cut this wording. I'm placing my wording on a folded form, as you can see. So as it stands right now, I'm going to secure it with my pin. For this part, I'm going to add my seam allowance, but for this other part, I'm not adding, where I have my bust point. So make sure you have your up, you have your bust point, very important, because once I take off my pattern, you will not be able to note the part that is up or down. So I'm adding my seam allowance. As you can see, I'll just add 0.5 inch seam allowance, as you can see. And for this part, I'm cutting exactly what I have right here. I'm not adding any seam allowance. You can see I've cut out this. And for this, I'm cutting 2 times of it, one on the left and one on the right. So I'll just place my wording and place this on it. Okay, so I'm adding my seam allowances on both sides for this particular one, because I'll stitch my neckline, the illusion neckline, on one part and stitch the other on one part. So if you are making this dress, this is how you are going to cut your wording. Okay, so for the under bust, we don't add anything. I'm cutting the under bust the way you see it, but then once it comes to here, I'll add my 0.5 seam allowance. Then when I come here, I'll also add my 0.5 seam allowance. Can you see? So now I have my bust point on this part. I'll make a notch to it, and I'm going to identify the upper part by making a mark on the woolly part of it, which is the back. This is the shiny part of it. So for the up, I'll pick up the woolly part of it, which is the back part, and I'll make a mark to show the upper piece. So now I'm done. I'll be going to the ironing table to iron this right away. So for me to iron this right away,